Hey guys, I just got an email from Edward asking, I mix and it sounds great in my basement studio. Play it anywhere else and it sounds awful. Too much reverb. Drum sounds different. Vocals are hidden. What do I do? I also mix with speakers and headphones because I don't trust the room. So let me give you 8 tips to get your mixes to sound great anywhere. First, if this is your first time on this channel and you're into music production, mixing, mastering, recording in your home studio, click on the subscribe button below and the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. So thank you, Edward, for your question. I'm going to try my best to help you out here. So having your mixes to sound good and great on a lot of systems is something that a lot of us struggle with. So with these 8 tips, I hope I'm going to help you to solve this problem and to make sure your mixes translate well on a lot of systems. So for tip number 1, set up your monitors as a perfect equilateral triangle, meaning that the distance between the 2 speakers is the same as the distance between both of your ears to both of the speakers. So you take the distance between your right ear and your right speaker and the left ear and the left speaker, and you make sure the distance is the same as the distance between the 2 speakers. Then you're going to have that perfect triangle. Now I'm going to jump right into tip number 2 because they both kind of go together. So tip number 2, experiment with your studio monitor placement and mix position. So I'm going to start with the mix position. You're probably mixing in a rectangle shape room like a lot of us do. So I would start by splitting that room size in 2. So you have your 50% mark point, and from the front wall, you cut that in half to 25%. And what you do afterwards is you set up your mix position between the 25% mark point and the 50% mark point. So Wes Lachaud, which is a sound designer, came up with that 38% rule, which means that the 38% mark point is the perfect starting point to set up your mix position. Now, this will depend on a lot of factors in your room. So I would say try it out, but as far as you stay between 25% and 50%, I think you're gonna be good. But just play with different mix positions within these 2 mark points, and you're gonna find yourself the perfect mix position according to your room. And then you have your speaker placement that you need to work on, okay? And this is gonna go according to the size of your perfect triangle. So that's why I'm saying point number 1 and 2, they kind of go together. So for example, if you have a large triangle, that means that your speakers are probably close to the side walls and the back wall. So by bringing that perfect triangle smaller, you're gonna have your speakers further away from the side walls and further away from the back wall. And you're gonna tone down the effect of your room by having a more of a direct sound out of your speakers, which is gonna help a lot, especially if you don't have a lot of acoustic treatment in your room. Now, tip number 3, monitor at low volume. I talked about that before on another video. And this is something very important. The louder you're gonna listen to your mix, the more room effect you're gonna get, okay, in your mixing position. So really important, mix at low volume most of the time. You can test that out at a higher volume at some point, but for most of the time, try to monitor at low volume. And when I'm talking about low volume, like on my side, I tend to go from 50 to 55 or 60 decibels. Anywhere between 50 to 70 decibels is good. So just get yourself an application, decibel meter, on your iPhone or Android phone, and just make sure you don't get too loud, okay? So you don't get a lot of effect out of your room. So take the habit on listening to your mixes at a lower volume than what you're used to. Okay, now tip number 4, mix in mono. I'm not talking about mixing 100% in mono, but at least check your mix once in a while in mono, just to make sure that all the important elements of your mix are present and you don't get any phase cancellation within the mix. Okay, now for tip number 5, invest in room treatment. I think this is the first investment you have to do. Before even buying better monitors, I would say, invest a bit of money into room treatment, especially that you're in a basement. And having a studio in a basement, like I do, can complicate things a bit, just because of the structure of the basement, all the concrete and stuff. So it's hard for low frequencies especially to get out in this context. So you can buy some Oralex type of treatment, which is a bit expensive, but you can actually do it yourself. There's a lot of videos on YouTube you can check out on how to make your own bass traps and acoustic treatment. And you know what? It's not that expensive. So check that out. You can actually do this yourself and save a lot of money. But really important to have at least a minimum of room treatment. Something else that you can do after you have the room treatment going on, you can actually invest in a mid-range type of speakers, like, Yamaha NS10s, the AVANTONES, for example, AVANTONES, BEHRITONES, all these mid-range type of speakers. Now, I work a lot with NS10s. For AVANTONES and NS10s, you'll be able to find these on eBay easily. These are passive speakers, okay, so you're going to need to have an amp. But for AVANTONES and BEHRITONES, they have like a powered version. So, I'll leave the links below anyways, but these are good for the mid-range, and it's good for the balance. On my side with my NS10s, I really like the mid-range translation out of them, and the balance, with my effects, reverbs, vocals, the drums, the kick, the snare, everything balanced very well on these speakers, and most of the time, when it's well balanced on my NS10s, it's going to be well balanced anywhere else. So check this out. Now for tip number 7, I spoke about that one before. Compare your mixes with a good reference track. So depending on the type of music you're mixing, you probably have an idea of the sound you want. And you probably have like a reference track somewhere that sounds similar to what you're mixing right now. Take that good professional sounded mix and compare it to yours. Do that on your main speakers and do the same exercise in other systems. Your mixes is never going to sound the same as the reference, but the goal here is just to make sure you're in the same ballgame. Don't go too crazy about that, but just use that as a tool. Now, my last tip is take breaks when you're mixing, so you get your ears to rest a bit. So on my side, this is something I do a lot. I tend to take at least a 10-minute break every hour I mix. And before I bounce my final mix, I'm going to make sure that I don't even listen to any music for at least half an hour before I get back to my mix and make my final decisions. So I hope that helps. Now, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section below or reach me directly on my website at mixdown.online. All right, guys, so this is going to be it for today. Don't forget to share and to like if you enjoyed this video and to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to this channel. Have a good week, guys. I'll see you next time.